what's going on, guys? Mr. Duck123 here. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be ranking some weapons. Okay, so I'm just going to be doing at least to the best weapons, so the worst to best. I am not going to be putting any like rankings like A, B, C, or D, anything like that. But anyway, if you guys enjoy the video, make sure you drop a like, subscribe, and let's get into the video. So first up, we have the Mozambique. Now this gun is what a lot of people were expecting to be at number 1, because first of all, it's a shotgun, it doesn't have very long range, and it only has 3 rounds. It comes out in a kind of triangular round of fire, so it's not very good. If you stick hammers on it, it's pretty good, but you really have to be reliant on yourself to break their shields first, or you actually have to hit your shots with it, because it's not the most reliable gun on the planet. So I have the Mozambique ranked at the worst gun in Apex Legends. Next up, we have the P2020. Now I am doing all these guns that are really not in the meta for the first kind of part, because these guns aren't very good and they're meant to be upgraded from after you pick them up and maybe do whatever you need to do with them. So next up, I have the P2020. Now the P2020 is kind of the same way with the Mozambique. It's kind of terrible unless you got the Mozambique and the P2020 hop up for it, which is the hammer point. So once you have this on, you can actually do some serious business with this gun. Depending on how your trigger finger is and how accurate you are with the P2020, you can get some damage done on some people, but you have to have another gun that you can rely on to break their shields and get them low for you. But the P2020 without this hammer points are not very good, and I think you should not be running this game in endgame even if you have hammer points, because there's just so many better guns than this gun. That's why I have it as the second worst gun in Apex Legends. Next up, we have the charge rifle. Now I know that the snipers are not going to be as good as the other weapons, but I'm going to have like a separate category for them. Now the charge rifle is the worst out of the snipers in my opinion. It is a laser, so you can't really miss with this thing. You do up to 90 damage with this thing, so it's pretty strong, but you have to use it correctly, and I would rather run any other sniper over this. Now, if you were running this thing in endgame, you must be going for 4k damage or something. Even if you were, I would run a scout or an R9 or something, but this gun of choice is not the greatest in endgame, and I wouldn't recommend you use it. So next up in line, we have the RE45. Now, I put the RE45 here because a lot of people do like this gun, but a lot of people don't. So there are some things wrong with this gun, and that is the mag. Now, the mag isn't the greatest on the thing. I mean, of course, it's a pistol, so it's not going to have the greatest mag, but this would be way better than the R9 if it had as many bullets as it did, but it's also not as accurate. But if you have this thing in endgame with like a purple mag, or even if you have the golden variant of the RE, then it can be really good, and you can actually get some pretty good kills with this thing, but I feel like it's just not as versatile as some of the other weapons that are coming up on this list, so I feel like it has to be ranked right here on the list. Now, next up, we have the longbow. Now, the longbow is a very good gun at close to medium range. Surprisingly, this gun isn't the greatest at long range because of its bullet velocity, and it's not the most accurate because of that. Now, if people are strafing and you got the longbow at long range, you're not going to be doing very much unless you kind of aim ahead of them, because the bullet velocity on this thing is the slowest in the game. So if you have this thing, you have like the most attachments you can have in the game. You have skull piercer, you have a bunch of other things. You have like a stock, you can put a barrel stabilizer, anything you want on this gun really, but it all comes down to how accurate you are with the gun. And this can be a really good gun at some points, but I feel like it's just not the greatest gun to be running ever. Now, next up in line, we have the triple take. Now, the triple take is a very good gun in close quarters, surprisingly, but you can kind of use this as a shotgun and a sniper. With the choke attachment on it, you can do a lot of damage with this thing because it's a long lost brother. The Peacekeeper is now a golden weapon in the care package, so now this is the only gun that runs a choke. But if you have this thing choked and your long range, say like 300 meters, you can actually hit like 90% of your shots, seeing as how this is kind of like an energy rifle. It used to be until it got changed to the sniper ammunition a couple seasons ago. This gun can do pretty good long range, and that's the reason why. But if you have any attachments on this thing, you can like deck this thing completely out, and you can actually have this gun till endgame. I would recommend using it if you're trying to get high damage, or if you're just trying to get your Evo shield up or something. It's a good gun to run. Next up we have the Sentinel. Now the Sentinel is the last sniper I'm going to be talking about, as I am not including the care package weapons, but the Sentinel is probably the best sniper out of the bunch. It is a bolt action. They did buff it recently for the bolt increase speed, so you'll be doing a little bit more with this thing than you were before. If you stack this thing out, which you can't really do, you can only have 3 attachments on it, but it's still a very good gun. Now, I would recommend having a 3x or a 2-4, but basically whatever you're good with here. This gun can do double to the head than what it does to the chest, so it has that double multiplier. Very good gun if you're trying to get your evo up, or if you're trying to do some damage to people for your friends to push in or something. Just a good gun to be running in endgame, and I do run this gun a lot in endgame sometimes. So okay, now the next gun we have is the L-Star. Now the L-Star was a care package weapon, if you guys remember back in season either 2 or 3, I can't quite remember, but this gun was a beast while it was in the care package, but now that it is not in the care package, it has kind of gotten nerfed, and it is not the greatest. Now, you can make like 6 S's in the sky with this thing if you're not controlling your recoil, and you have to really be careful with this gun because it overheats, and if you do burst it, you're not going to have the 100% accuracy all the time. Now, there is one perk of this gun, is while you're on a zipline, you can actually do like 100% accuracy on it, which means you can absolutely demolish people with this gun if you're on a zipline or if you're on an octane pad, and I think that this gun is pretty good in those situations. But this gun is actually not a gun that I would run in endgame, and I never do run this gun. I know some people really do enjoy this gun, and that's fine because I absolutely hate the gun, but that's just my opinion. So that is why the L-Star is next up on the list. Now, next to the L-Star, we have its brother, which is not far behind it, and that is the Havoc. Now, they did nerf the Havoc big time, so they made the horizontal recoil start up very, very big at the front, or when you start shooting your gun. The vertical recoil was increased by a lot, and they nerfed the capacity of the gun from 32 rounds to 28. Now, this gun used to be a shredder. I would usually run this gun whenever I got it, and now it's just not the greatest gun to be running. It still does shred if you're at close range, but I would not run this thing at medium range or anything else. You need to be conservative with your ammo too, because it does eat ammo still. With the select fire attachment, it can do some pretty good damage if you're at long range and you want to hit some shots off, maybe level up your evo. It is an all-around balanced gun, and I think the nerf was well needed for it, but I think a small buff would be in works for this gun, and I think that would make the gun a lot better. Next up, we have the EVA Auto. Now, the EVA shotgun is, I guess, fully auto, but it is semi-automatic. So this gun, if you have a purple shotgun bolt on it, man, does this thing just delete people. Now, you have to be at very close range with this gun, and if you aim in, I'm pretty sure it makes your accuracy actually worse, which is weird. But this gun can absolutely demolish people at close range. As you can see with the purple shotgun bolt, you can fire almost as fast as like some of the semi-auto guns in this game, actually. So this gun is very, very strong close range, and I wouldn't use it for any other reason but close range, or if you do a lot of damage to someone with like maybe a carbine, and then you pull out your EVA and then just kill people with it. Now, this gun has always been an on and off gun. I've never really been the biggest fan of it, but I do realize that this gun is very, very good in close quarters combat. Now, next up, we have the G7 Scout. Now, the Scout has been through a lot of changes. It was worked with, so Caustic and Gibraltar didn't take near as much damage to the legs now. So, this gun has gotten a nerf with the scopes that you're allowed to put on it. You were actually able to put a 4 to 10 digital threat on this thing, which was absolutely crazy. And it was always able to run light mag and stuff, but this gun has always been a very solid gun. I used to hate it back in season 3, but I realize how good it is now. With double tap, I'm not very fond of it, and I forgot to talk about that with the EVA Auto too. I wouldn't recommend running double tap if you got anything above a blue shotgun bolt, and I wouldn't recommend using double tap if you got a G7 either. But I do really like this gun, and I think it's very good for getting your damage up if you want to level up your evo, and etc. Now, next up, I have the Hemlock. Now, the Hemlock has always been one of my favorite guns, and I can tell you guys why. Now, this thing can actually two-burst someone to the head if you look here. So, as Bangalore says when she pings it, which is actually kind of interesting, one burst to... Fuck, I'm in third person. One burst to break the shield, another to break the man. Now, this gun is absolutely crazy on single fire. Once again, if you're trying to level up your Evo, get this thing on single fire with like a 2 times or a 3 times. A 3 times works perfectly with this thing. You got a single fire on this thing. Does a double damage multiplier because it is an AR, so this thing can do up to 44 damage in the head, which is absolutely crazy. Of course, depending on what helmet they have, this gun can do a lot of damage. Now next up we have the Spitfire. Now I've never really been the biggest fan of the Spitfire, mainly because of its recoil and how well it handles in the medium range combat situations, but it is a very good gun and a lot of people run this thing, and I would recommend running this thing in endgame, which is why this thing has the highest damage per mag, not highest DPS, but highest damage per mag. Now this gun, I don't know what to say, but if you got a purple mag on this thing, it used to have 60 something rounds and now it has 55, so they did do a significant nerf to the thing, but I'm honestly amazed with how much this can do with just one mag of the thing. I mean, it's a LMG, so it's got the double damage multiplier, which means you'll do double the damage to the head than you would with the chest. It has 55 rounds in a purple mag, so you can kill multiple people with this if you're careful and if you actually have the right situation set up for you. But this gun is very viable for endgame. I would recommend using it, but that is why I ranked this one next. Now next up I have the Wingman. Now I am not the greatest fan of the Wingman, and I do think that it is a very good weapon and it can have some high potential and high standards, but it just doesn't hit that spot with the other guns for me. I know a lot of people are absolutely insane with this gun, and I've seen a lot of people on streaming and they just absolutely shred with this gun. I've never really been one of those people who can actually do that as well as the other people. You have to be very, very good with the Wingman. You have to practice it and you have to get used to what the kind of pattern is with how many shots you can fire without it going up in recoil, blah blah blah. This gun is awesome, but I feel like it just doesn't have that high potential and high standard that I want, but I understand that this gun is a very good gun, and I would run it in endgame, and I still do run it in endgame sometimes, and yeah, this gun is pretty good. So next up we have the Prowler. Now you guys have noticed that I have been going through lots of the heavy guns recently, and they are all just kind of in the same spot. I think all the heavy guns are awesome, and you just have to use them right, and it depends on what kind of player you are too. But the Prowler is next. Now, the Prowler is honestly one of the most underrated guns on select fire. So if you have this thing on burst, a lot of people have not really realized how good it is on burst. I just find this thing a lot stronger than the Hemlock and Spitfire, mainly because of its high mag capacity. Now, this thing with a purple mag has as much as the Spitfire has without a mag, so that's pretty crazy on its own. But also the select fire, you have pretty good fire rate with this gun. It is an SMG, so it has that 1.5 damage multiplier instead with all the SMGs, but this gun has good fire rate, very good recoil. On burst, it is also a very, very good gun. I would honestly run this gun in endgame. A lot of people do. I love running this gun all the time. One of my favorite guns. Now next up I have the Alternator. Now a lot of people don't know, but the Alternator is basically a slower fire rate and auto Prowler. Now it does the same damage as the Prowler, it does the same damage to the head, just an SMG, so it has that 1.5 damage multiplier. This gun is awesome. Now a lot of people would be surprised for me to say this, but this is one of my favorite guns in the game right now. I just feel like it's slow fire rate with the good accuracy that you can have with this thing. I feel like it's just too good to be true, and they did buff this thing from 16 rounds to 19 in the stock magazine that you can have for this, which is absolutely crazy. I really have loved this gun since Season 4, and I don't plan to stop loving it. It's honestly just such a reliable gun, and I would recommend using this thing in endgame. Now next up we have the Mastiff. Now the Mastiff was recently taken out of the care package and put into the normal gun pool, which I thought was kind of stupid, but I kind of started to like how they did with it. I would still like the Peacekeeper to come back, and maybe if they added a new shotgun to the care package. And honestly, this gun can do a lot of damage, but it's not the most reliable gun. This thing can still do like a 2-hit if you hit your shots accordingly. Now, This gun has always been my favorite care package weapon, my favorite weapon back when it was in the care package, but I should probably stop bringing up that it was in the care package because I don't think it's going back in anytime soon. So the Mastiff is a very good shotgun, a little bit better than the Eva, and I think that I would run it in endgame, and I think you guys should too, because it is a pretty good shotgun, and it can be a sniper at some situations. I mean, if you look at this, it's pretty accurate. You can hit for up to 26 if you go long range. Now, I'm not the only one who thinks this, but I'm pretty sure this gun could use a choke, and it would be so much better, because the horizontal spread on this thing makes it not that consistent. But this gun is still awesome to use. I love running it. Now, boys and girls, we are in the top 3 for guns. Now, you guys probably know which guns I haven't ranked and which ones I have already if you watched through the video. But next up, I have the carbine at number 3. If you're really accurate with this thing, and if you practice this gun a lot, I feel like you can get super good with it. I know I've kind of mastered the gun now, so it's pretty good. I do like running the gun, but I do prefer other guns over it. I'm still going to rank it number 3 because a lot of people love this gun, and it is a very good gun. Awesome gun to run in endgame. You can win a lot of your gunfights with the carbine, and that's why I have it at number 3 on the list. Now, I was really debating putting R9 at number 1, but I'm gonna have to put it at number 2 for one reason. Now, the R99 has always been a fabulous gun, and they did have to nerf it from the 30 round mag to 27, which is actually why I have this at number 2. Now, if this had any higher of a mag, or like maybe one more damage, I would have this gun way higher, and I think it deserves to be higher in some people's case, but I love this gun. It has the fastest fire rate, and it is very controllable with the recoil. If you're close quarters with this thing, you can absolutely delete people. Now, I've always liked running this gun in endgame. I am talking about running the gun in endgame a lot because if you have maybe one of the first guns I've ranked in endgame, it's not always guaranteed that you're gonna, do very good with it. The R99 is awesome endgame, awesome when you start off with. I feel like this has always been one of the guns where if I find it on the floor, whether I hate it or not, if you find it on the floor, you're always happy to see it. And when you find this, when you first drop and you got a body shield next to it, you've basically won any gunfight you got to. But I really love this gun, and I think you guys should give it a try if you don't like it. Try and practice the gun a little bit, get good with it, because this thing is a shredder. Now, I'm pretty sure a lot of people know what gun I'm going to be ranking next, and that is the Flatline. Now, a lot of people are not very fond of this gun. Some people will run it over a lot of other guns I have on the list, but I feel like the Flatline is one of those guns that I've had that has just always been my favorite, and when I find it off the drop, I'm like, oh yeah, I've won every gunfight I get into. You find this with a body shield off the drop, you're gonna win. Now, I say close to medium because if you have mastered the recoil on this gun like I have, you can do some damage at medium range. Now, a lot of people don't like this gun from anything from besides close range, which I understand because it is hard to master the recoil because this thing does kick like a mule, but it has that high mag capacity if you have a purple mag, which is the 30 round magazine that it can have. And this gun with just, you don't even need a sight with this gun, honestly. If you guys played back in season 4 and completed the battle pass and bought it, you have probably some of the best set of iron sights in the game, and I think that's what makes this gun number 1. Also, that's why I ranked it above the R99, is because of the iron sights I have. Now, I know the R9 can have a pay-to-win iron sights, and it's very good, but I feel like the Flatline is just so damage worthy, and it's awesome to run an endgame, and I think you guys should try and practice the recoil and see how you guys do with it. Now, with that being said, people, I am now done the video. Now, if you guys agreed with me on this list, make sure you drop a like. If you didn't, drop a like anyway, because it really helps me out. Now, the last video I made on ranking got a lot of controversy, even though I did say that it was my opinion, so I'm kind of expecting the same thing on this video. You guys can make your own list in the comments below if you want. Tell me what you guys think is better. Tell me if I missed any guns or if I ranked some lower than they should have been. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Peace out.